Hi, Karina here, your Lucid Living Coach. How is everyone doing this Friday, February 8th? I am doing a little video about, as you can see by the picture, climate change and global warming and how humans contribute and how we are one and the same. So I was encouraged to do this video to explain a little bit more about the little snippet I said in my last video, so people are clear on what I'm talking about and my intentions for saying it. As a spiritual leader, I have a lot to say about the spiritual realm of things, and that's the energetic self. We all have the physical world that is in plain view, that we can both see if a pen is the color blue or the color red. However, there are other things that we cannot see with our eye that are unexplainable. And I wanted to kind of combine both worlds. So I wrote a blog on my WordPress, and you guys are more than welcome to click on the link below to my WordPress and just read the blog or column that I wrote. For all those people that don't care for reading, or maybe they're working with their hands and they're just listening on their headphones, this is for you. So I'm going to start off with saying we are all one, and I will be explaining the terms, so people that don't understand what climate change and global warming is will have a better perspective on it. And those that already know this scientific process, you can disregard the explanations, and then the message would be more of like the spiritual, human, individual journey that affects the climate change or global warming as a whole. All right, so I'm going to get to reading. Hope you enjoy. As we all know, climate change is occurring right before our eyes. We have seen earthquakes, flooding, tsunamis, and the hottest of hot and the coldest of cold. Here, I would like to start off by explaining the definition of climate change and global warming. I have added bold italics to highlight the further input in explaining some of these terms that are not understood, so you can disregard that. Climate change is a change in the statistical distribution of weather patterns when that change lasts for an extended period of time, decades to millions of years. Climate change is caused by factors such as biotic processes. These processes are simply life, like humans, plants, and animals. Variations in radiation received by Earth. Solar radiation is referring to the sun's radiation and its effects of its climate change. Also keep in mind, it is so large that about 1,300,000 planet Earths can fit inside of it. Plate tectonics, if you don't know, they are large-scale movements which contribute to the continental drift as well as earthquakes and eruptions, and certain human activities have been identified as primary causes of ongoing climate change, often referred to as global warming. There is no general argument in scientific media or policy documents as to the precise term to be used to refer to anthropogenic forces, change, either global warming or climate change may be used. Now, global warming is a sustained increase in the average temperature of the Earth sufficient to cause climate change. This temperature is contributed by an increase in carbon dioxide. What is carbon dioxide? It is the outbreath, which is the in-breath for plants and trees during photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is defined as a colorless, odorless gas produced by burning carbon and organic compounds. This includes burning a wood fire, burning of fossil fuels, burning wastes, and by respiration, the action of breathing. It is naturally present in the air and is absorbed by plants in photosynthesis. Note, we do not have a control Earth, scientifically speaking, for statistics to see if the Earth would naturally create a rise in temperatures to create the climate change for natural evolution and population control. However, this is where faith in our inner knowing comes in. Just as Einstein didn't have sufficient scientific evidence for his theory of relativity, he still made it his reality and he built upon it. Recently, we now have such evidence with the detection of gravitational waves that were created by the collision of two neutron stars on August 17th of 2017. So let's just assume global warming is happening due to an imbalance of humanity. I'd rather be safe than sorry. There is no room for error when humanity depends on it. Also, before the 1950s, I'd say even before the 1930s, there wasn't a whole lot of traces of carbon dioxide. But there was very little cars on the road, and there was no nuclear warfare. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Here is some evidence humanity has done more than its fair share of contributing to the sick Earth. Carbon dioxide doubled in its levels in 1950s. What exactly changed in the 1950s that would create such a drastic jump? First of all, TV was in almost every household by now. And by 1960, the population increased by around 400 million. Just to give you a perspective, from 2010 to 2020, we estimate an increase of 700 million. I think we are uncomfortably populated, which is increasing the carbon dioxide, but that is least of our worries. Importantly, we had a lot of warfare going on, which is a huge contributor to the increase of carbon dioxide. World War II was between 1939 and 1945. This was the largest armed conflict in human history, ranging over 6 continents and all the world's oceans. The war caused an estimated 50 million military and civilian deaths, including those of 6 million Jews from the Holocaust. And there was also the Battle of France. Global in scale and in its repercussions, World War II created a new world at home and abroad. Among its major results were the beginning of the nuclear era. Well, from this information, I could assume that the jump in carbon dioxide could have been from all the explosions and burning that was going on leading up to the 1950s jump in numbers. Okay. Now that we know the similarities and the differences in terminology and how we have contributed to the problem, how could we compare this to human life and our individual contribution? With that being explained, I would like to say we are not separate from this earth, just as our cells are not separate from our human bodies. I will be explaining how we are one and the same and how our choices on personal basis affects everything that we are seeing around us. When we see our earth out of balance, which is a reflection that we as humanity are out of balance, including our individual imbalances. From the knowledge gained, what could we do now? We could buy more products with biodegradable packaging because we all can't just stop breathing, right? So buying products not overpackaged. Trader Joe's is kind of known for this, which kind of makes me sad. Buying in bulk at a grocery store, like Whole Foods, the 360, and Sprouts, they have those big barrels with beans and oats and nuts. Instead of buying the overly packaged ones, you could just use the barrels and fill up your own bag. Reducing our waste of plastic as well. And FYI, most bottled water is super crappy for you. I've tested it myself. Suggestions on getting a glass jar and reusable container to fill up at your house before you head out the door. I keep one big glass jug in my car that I fill my smaller container with when I'm running out and about. I'll do a separate YouTube video on the topic of water because I do have a lot to say about that. Increase planting trees because they absorb the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Do not be a supporter of warfare, for we cannot afford another huge jump in carbon dioxide like in the 1950s. Our lives are dependent on it now. Those days, people were naive. They only have controlled social media like TV. We have so many ways of receiving information. We know too much. Therefore, war is not the answer. Humanity is. Balance, harmony, understanding of differences and diversities. It is most important now that communities, states, countries start working together as one to provide our planet more respect and hope for our future generations. We can do this if everyone does his or her own part in providing the balance our planet is so badly needs to create a more harmonious life. I will attempt to bring the science of thought to meet spirit, the collective unconscious, and how each of us has a job. Just as our cellular bodies have a job in seeking balance and life for our bodies, us too have a specific job to play in seeking balance and life for our planet. When we are not in alignment with our specific purpose, we are in conflict with the other. We create imbalance and warfare. This kind of imbalances also reflect in our cellular bodies when we get sick or have a disease. Our earth is sick right now, and it needs our help since we are the blood or energetic life of the earth. Humanity has to take a part in not only helping on a physical plane, but also helping on a metaphysical plane. That's where the science minds, which is the physical, meets with the spiritual minds, which is the metaphysical. Look, scientists argue about who's right and who's wrong, as well as all the religions. Have you ever heard the saying, the devil's in the details? Okay, that is all ego and is not getting us as a collective any closer to harmony and balance. So if we focus on our own relationship with the universe or universal God, we meet in the metaphysical realm of union. Also, if scientists work together on certain research and get it out to the communities, instead of keeping it all locked up for the universities, we can expand the knowledge to get more information for contribution. So don't you think instead of all these commercials about selling pharmaceutical drugs and sickness, we should be educating the communities about certain important things like global warming and climate change? Instead of news about arguments between opposing beliefs, imagine we talk about how we can all help. Like, for example, how awesome would it be if, like, the TV was selling us on each country or state to, like, do a specific thing at a specific time on a specific day. Like, all right, the state of California on February 10th will all turn off their phones and meditate or be without their phones or plant a tree or pick up garbage or not drive their car or not light a fire. And I know they have done those before about not lighting a fire. But we could have a nationwide chores, like each day of the week or once a month, just like we did when we were kids, to help maintaining a family unit.